CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success. Welcome back to CMMS Radio, folks. I am here with David Hahn. He is the CEO of Remberg. And if you haven't heard of Remberg, that's a CMMS. It's actually more than a CMMS the way I see it. It's really about the maintenance management, you know, the typical things that you always hear on CMMS Radio, but we're going to get into some background. But Remberg specifically, they help maintenance experts keep the world running. They're backed by a team that understands this responsibility and translates it into intelligent, practical solutions. And they are the maintenance platform Europe relies on. It's built in Germany for industries around the world. So don't think you have to be in Germany or in Europe or, you know, whatever it might be. These guys can help you everywhere. We're going to get into that. David Hahn, welcome to CMMS Radio.
Thanks for having me, Greg. So it's been a while that I did this, but of course, glad to be here.
Yeah. And for me, you know, the reason behind that is, you know, rock on, keep going. This stuff is, you know, cool. And I kind of like a little spice and fire when it comes to, you know, getting fired up for a conversation anyway, right?
Yeah, I can relate. So first of all, thanks for having me. I told you the first time I reached out, it's like my morning routine. I always have this German newspaper morning briefing, which takes 6 to 7 minutes on the way to work. And then Spotify at some point automatically always switch to CMMS radio as the next thing that I was listening to. So basically every morning I hear your voice, and now I'm glad to be finally here and have a conversation with you.
Yeah, and I really I appreciate that, and I just like the idea of us, you know, helping one person at a time to learn a little something, get inspired to reach out and connect, maybe expand their network, solve a bunch of problems. And CMMS, maintenance management, industry, skilled trades, all that stuff is near and dear to my heart for several different reasons. But I want to get into your background a little bit, and I'm curious, and I'm sure a lot of other people are, what were you doing prior to Remberg? And then kind of maybe take us through as to when that all happened, because your background, your experiences, they're highly relevant in my view to what you do, who you serve, whether it's your internal customers and your team that you empower through leadership, or the customers that you serve, the industries that you literally prop up. So give us a little background on that.
Yeah, so well, I grew up on the German countryside, so a little town, an hour in the west of Munich. And my dad had been working decades in the automotive industry. So, you know, Germany is known for beer, cars, machines. So in some way, shape or form, you get into those industries growing up. And yeah, well, it was always the same, but like age 15 or 16, I always had the first, I would say, glimpses into the manufacturing environment. So there was always summer work. Back then I worked 6 weeks over the summer period in a McDonald's manufacturing for buns. So there were like 60,000 buns coming out per hour, coming out of that fully automated manufacturing space with 8 people on the ground. And I was doing night shifts there. So unplanned downtime is something I'm very familiar with, when in the middle of the night the baskets pile up of the buns in there, and then the whole thing falls over, and the machine operator comes shouting at you, insulting you, what the heck are you doing? And so, you know, firsthand from the ground what unplanned downtime actually means and how it feels like. So that was the first touch points back in the days that brought me into that. This is the backbone of our industry, and people need help there.
Then, so, and you're obviously a young buck at the time, and did that kind of get you intrigued with regards to the solutions and maybe matching those up to the people in the process necessary to do the right maintenance activities to keep those machines running. So you were on the maintenance side when you were doing that, or you were on the operator side?
I was on the operator side. I was like literally plugged in there at the machine at the end of the buns. I
Yeah.
actually never spoke with anyone in that regard so deeply about it, but you were asking. So basically, end of line buns piling up and then taking them from a very warm place to a very cold place and going back and forth, and
Yeah.
nothing should be breaking there. I mean, I was like, I think at that point I was already 18 because night shifts you weren't allowed to do earlier than that, but there was also other jobs like that before. And that was before I went to study. So I then went to the Technical University of Munich, very German, very Munich oriented CV, I would say, mechanical engineering, a little bit of management. And then like, I think my father also pushed me a little bit to go to the automotive industry. So I went to BMW, did an internship there, and like went through the normal kind of way. After seeing automotive a bit, I did a little bit of consulting in the beer industry, obviously, and then ended up in like so we're good at that thing. So you need to understand the German side of things. But much later on, I went more on the consulting side of things. I wanted to help people, especially with the focus on manufacturing and operations. And then my plan was to go more into consulting, but then my co-founder, who studied with me, was a robotics background there. He called me and said, "Hey, there's an opportunity." An executive from a large-scale industrial player actually approached him and said, "There's something going on in the industry. A lot of things are super under-digitized. People need help. There's a downtime. There's like equipment is getting older, and people who have the know-how go into retirement. So there's a lot of tailwind when it comes to fixing machines, repairing machines, maintenance in general. And it's a highly, I don't know about the US so much because we are very active in Europe. It's a highly undervalued environment. So in many organizations, the maintenance people do not get the attention and the appreciation that they typically deserve in our view. So that was something we took a look at in more detail. I can explain it a bit. I'm curious on how you see it. But then we went into this, built a company, and raised venture capital. So today we have 30 million raised. We have 70 people. We have 3-digit customers, more than 1 million assets managed. So like from the little bug in like the McDonald's buns, it's been a journey. And today, yeah, as you said, we're helping these people that are not as seen, who are actually running the world in the background. We help them run it by simplifying maintenance, not by writing AI everywhere, but by simplifying maintenance. And we do so with modern maintenance software.
So these are all connected to some of the questions that I had written down. So rather than even look at those, first thing, when you talk about that specific challenge, that has been mostly, I would say, ever present since the beginning. You go back as far as you want to. I don't care about the technology. We're talking about the people in the process and how an organization is structured, and it really works. And over a period of time, maybe even in the very beginning, the maintenance department itself, not necessarily operations, but the maintenance department itself is undervalued. And I had a really great discussion earlier this week with a dear friend of mine, an industry colleague. His name's Alex Bowen with Digital Thinker, and he does the Streamline conferences. I'm part of that thing. And we were talking about this exact topic. And he was talking about the concept of the invisible balance sheet and how much is hiding because maintenance gets rolled up. And there's also something interesting. Have you ever noticed in environments where sometimes you have the plant floor, the shop floor, the factory floor, and the offices are above it? Those things matter. And when we can show, say, for example, with your technology, where the value is from maintenance, where the risk is avoided or averted or mitigated, that's really there. But it's still to this day often gets ignored, unseen. Everybody's moving fast. So I want to be fair, because sometimes we're like, oh, management doesn't see it, leadership doesn't see it, stockholders don't see it, blah, blah, blah. But it's the most critical thing, because if you're not getting it done on the shop floor, on the front lines, it's over. It's absolutely over. There's nothing more to it. That's the heart of these businesses that manufacture, produce, etc. Another thing you're kind of talking about is there's a mentality that I'm always fascinated by when it comes to Europe, and very specifically, what do you think? You know what? Random question. Have you ever been to the when you're doing the car stuff and with BMW, right? Um, did you ever make it over to the States to South Carolina, or was
It
that?
was that's in Spartanburg, is it right?
Yes,
I
sir.
think the plan. And so I know back then I was like I think 19 or so. Then I did an internship 6 months there. I paid like I think 500 euros per month. It was like literally me paying to be working there. It was like underpaid a lot. So they changed later with the law and so on. But um, I thought about a career within BMW and the opportunity to go abroad and like spend some time in Spartanburg and like asked a couple of people, basically like a um, live interview. How's your life? You had some time in Spartanburg. How is it? How did you like it? And I think a lot of people are using that as a career jumping board, so to say, because it's always good to have either they go to China for a while or they go to Spartanburg or now Brazil or so, and within BMW to then move on to the next one. So I thought about it back then, and yeah, I thought that it's in some way, shape, or form I could um, create more impact when not being in the corporate ladder, and that some way that is also totally fair, and I have a deep level of respect for that, but it didn't feel right to me. I cannot I would have to go a little bit deeper on why exactly that was, but I just didn't feel it.
And I remember the reason I brought it up is I've been out in Spartanburg. I've got friends of mine that worked at BMW, and they did the opposite. They would have to go to Germany, and they would be there for essentially a month, and
have some great beer.
Yes, and living in that environment and really understanding the system when it comes to the whole manufacturing process, the maintenance process, and the feedback I've gotten from all of them is like it's incredible. It's like spot on, and really get some things done, high quality products, all those types of things. I mean, that location down there, I think they have at least one. They might have 2 or 3 fire departments on the property. You know, it's wild. So let me ask you about like these fundamentals when it comes to maintenance. It relates to manufacturing. I know you guys do work with all different sectors. It doesn't have to be manufacturing. It could be facilities. It could be literally anything. Do you agree that the most fundamental aspect to all of this is really the people in the process and not the technology? And it's only then that we can appropriately leverage the technology?
If I listen to your podcast for a while and I now say no, then you probably disinvite me in this moment and kick me out.
No.
I'm absolutely with you on the people. What I have seen is that sometimes even without a proper process, a technology can enable that the process works or gets established. So sometimes the technology is an amplifier for processes because you have in a technology you can define a path, a happy path, so to say, for a reactive maintenance process and make it extremely simple and put a QR code there. Then people speak into their phone in a certain language. Then other people are taking it over in their own language and then react to it. And there's a certain guideline to that. And you may not have had this process beforehand. Beforehand it was just a phone call from the operator. And so the people need to be on board, obviously. And the technology can be an amplifier to drive great processes. But then if a great technology provider has already done the processes across sectors and simplified them to a drastic level, then a organization can heavily benefit, even if they don't have processes in place, from not a technology provider, but a solution provider. And then that's how you basically, that's where I see it a little bit nuanced there. But obviously you are right. Without the people and a proper process, you can take the technology and put it to the waste.
That's a great perspective, because if I say, or a lot of us say, that you need the people and then the process, or the process and then the people, there is this really important nuanced area that you just highlighted, where can technology actually help us with these things that we're saying need to be in place first? So I think the maintenance fundamentals and those behaviors certainly need to be there, but the technology can augment some of that, because the technology acts as a roadmap for the front line, midline, and even the entire organization if it's done properly. So you there are no wrong answers in this scenario, and it's very important that people hear specific kind of opinions, viewpoints, and even things that we're not quite sure on, to get us all thinking. Because the original messaging behind why maintenance exists, what it really can do, what it really enables for the org, that's not going to change. But there are always multiple ways to approach it. So some technologies, maybe all of them, can help with that lift, because sometimes we have great intention about what we're doing in our org and on the shop floor, and we don't have any visibility to what we're supposed to be doing. So I think your perspective is, it's essentially spot on. That's that the new, you use the word nuance. So I want to talk to you about the specificity around that view and the technology with Remberg. So can you give some specific examples of where you've seen that nuance come to bear and make a huge impact?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's our daily business. People are coming to us, like when you look at maintenance and maintenance software and CMMS, that's the CMMS category has been around for a while, right? So that's, even if it wasn't coined CMMS, maintenance software in itself has been around for 30 years, or I would say, I don't know the exact years, but it's been there for a while. So I don't know, but do you know when this
I would
term
say generally the consensus would fall somewhere in the range of the 1960s.
Yeah,
And
okay,
then,
so it's even long.
Yeah, it's a long time.
I didn't want to say something, but let's say decades.
Yes.
And we, as a modern solution provider in that space, we didn't reinvent the wheel, obviously. So people in that space are typically problem aware, and say, I know that I'm just in firefighting mode. I'm not in the preventive area so much. I'm just running behind the wave, so to say, and like doing firefighting. They are in a problem awareness state most of the time. Some of them, I would say by now, probably also all of them are also solution aware. They know that there's some sort of solution for maintenance, but then it's often too difficult to how to get out of the firefighting mode. When you are constantly firefighting, how are you supposed to sit down and then structure everything, think about the processes, define the workflows, select a provider, and then get going, and then implement it, then import, then do the asset hierarchy and the structures, and then that has to be cleaned up. And then you need to sit down and do a preventive maintenance task or preventive maintenance plan for every single asset in the respective. This is a lot of work. And that is something we are facing often, that great people have the problem and the solution awareness, but then they are stuck in the firefighting mode and cannot really, they are obviously aware. It's a little bit like, you are like, it may be a bad example, but there's literally no smoker on the planet who knows that it's healthy what they are doing. Like everyone knows that there's a problem and a solution, but I'm someone stuck in my old habit. And so the question is, how can we help them get out of the firefighting mode while they are in the firefighting mode? So that's the key question, because and then you go into that and say, okay, you have to, let's not talk about technology. My mentor always said, you're not selling technology, you're selling solutions. So the question is, how the solution that we are selling is, we bring you out of the firefighting mode. So how? You have to go every single step. And every single step starts with, give me what you have as an asset structure already, even if it's just an Excel file or a CSV export, whatever it is, just give it to me. We will look at it. We have seen hundreds, thousands of setups. We help you import it, implement it, set up as simple as possible. And so you're up and running with already like an overview. If we get to talk to you a little bit about it, it would be nice, because then we understand you better, but we can help you with that. So that can be done quite simply. Then the second step is, in regards to every single asset, the main habit moment to get out of the firefighting mode is when you have preventive maintenance plans structured up and running for every single thing. And here you can talk about AI being nice or not, but AI is good in understanding language out of manuals, out of other things. So what you can do is you just dump manuals, you import stuff from the past, and we use AI to extract the information and then bring them automatically into the order of the preventive maintenance. So we take the workload out of those people to do the preventive maintenance plans themselves. And all of a sudden, you're already up and running, assets in there, maintenance plans in there, and then you just invite your team and you're done. So you are slowly getting out of firefighting mode. And this is something where you have to, and that's why we say the mission is not just bringing down unplanned downtime or eliminating downtime or whatever. It's simplifying maintenance. And then the result of that is less downtime or more asset availability, less cost, etc. So helping you get out of firefighting mode.
That's exactly what the goal is. All day, every day, maintenance should be boring. And these are not my words. I learned this from the people that I get to work with for these many, many years, and people I've helped in the past that imparted these real pieces of wisdom to me. Call them gems, if you will. And it's really interesting out here in the world how complicated all people can make things, because it feels weird to keep it simple, but maintenance should be boring, because that means you don't have firefighting. You don't need heroes running around putting out fires. And to get out of that reactive mode, it really seems like the technology can give you the breadcrumbs and the clues and help dial in the workflows, provided everything meets the business's needs and what they already do well. But this thing with like culture and behaviors and getting people bought in and understanding, what do I do? What is my role here? Who's on my right? Who's on my left that I'm here to be a part of, right? We're a team. And the challenge with the reactive scenario that we see almost everywhere, there's a bit of reaction everywhere around the world when it comes to firefighting maintenance. It won't go away, but we want to really reduce that and focus on the asset and its availability through maintenance and the best practices. However, when you're firefighting and you're trying to fix that, that's no different. And I think I'm quoting my friend George Williams here. That would be like falling off of a boat into the middle of the ocean, and that's when you decide to learn how to swim. It ain't happening. It's not possible. True. So the things you said really make an impact, and it's not dissimilar to what we all talk about. But what do you think is kind of the key to turn that corner on adoption for your clients, to get them starting to see and leverage the technology to find their gaps and then solve them? Because that's what's really happening here. You can provide the data, you can import the good OEM specs, and then hopefully optimize thereafter, because those are going to change environment by environment. But do you have kind of an approach or something that you see in these teams when they really have started to turn the corner and adopt the technology and reduce the firefighting?
Yeah, so let me take a step back, because I didn't fully answer your question. I just noticed, because I got so passionate about what I'm talking about. So you have to bring me back sometimes on the track. But remind me of the topic of adoption when we get there. So, but what we said before is simplifying the process for them to get out of the firefighting mode with the preventive part, of course. So we have an example, German company actually close to my hometown, Liquimoli. They are doing oil, also often in the motor world industry, oil for the motors and stuff. There were 1 billion in revenue, a couple of thousand people. So they were coming from a solely reactive behavior. Then we introduced it in a couple of months, the work order completion rate, basically, of all the things that they should be doing in preventive. We went up beyond 90% of preventive tasks actually being done. And the asset availability in the production lines went up by 20%. So that is something that you can just see.
Was that reflected in OEE or another measure?
Yeah, asset availability is then one part that flows into OEE. So just because the asset is available doesn't necessarily mean that it is producing, but they have quite a high utilization rate. And I mean, we always hear that maintenance isn't producing anything. Maintenance is producing asset availability, right? So you always have that statement by the production side, and I think that's one of the main KPIs on looking at it. So that's the preventive part, and a good example with a clear impact story. And then, but even if you're in firefighting mode and people are shouting at you, it's like, I'm so much into firefighting, I cannot go out of firefighting. Then we're just saying, okay, let us help you in firefighting. So we do the same thing, giving you an asset list. We import it, we take it from SAP or your ERP. We are also a SAP partner because in the European ecosystem, SAP is very dominant in manufacturing. So we are very close to that. So we integrate well. So we have an example of a client, Weiland. It's a 3 billion euro, 16,000 people. They do heating systems. They came to us and we introduced the solution, assets imported, and we gave them staples of QR codes. They ran around, put the QR codes everywhere, and then they implemented the simple work request module from our solution, QR code on. And here's the thing. In Germany, it was across plants, Germany and also France. People are not familiar as much with the language of the country that they are working in. So there are a lot of people who don't speak German or don't speak French then very well as the operators. So there's a lot of Turkish, Polish, Slovakian, and so on. And when they call the maintenance team, the information is not as valuable to the maintenance team because of the language barrier. So what we did is QR code scan, operator can use their own phone or something that is lying around. Then they just speak into it in their own tongue, in Slovakian or in German or whatever. And then AI is structuring, taking information from the pictures taken, bringing everything in, and translating this into the selected language of the maintenance team. And then they have a much better, higher quality. They know which asset, they know what they're talking about. And it took out the barrier for operators to use the phone, like to use their own smartphone to do something, because beforehand they were a little bit scared on the language barrier stuff, and that brought the quality up of the information in a reactive firefighting mode. And within 3 months, we reduced the MTTR by over 50%.
So these are the opportunity areas where a lot of people might sleep on that. They might not realize it, but you know, if I'm Slovakian or whatever it might be, and I don't know what to do, now I have to find someone. I might also start to disengage because it doesn't feel right. Like, oh, I should know this, but I really don't. So you're eliminating barriers. That's exactly what it is. And that's an invitation for people to kind of fall into their rhythm and be better, because you're getting rid of something that just is disruptive and it creates efficiency. And then back to the adoption, that's a great way to get adoption, because none of this stuff works without frontline adoption. But I also think, so I'm going to twist up the adoption question rather than find out, you know, what you've seen and how you've gotten people to adopt it. What about as we go to mid-level and upper management and leadership? Is there is there a challenge there when it comes to adoption of what this system is doing for our organization, meaning our frontline workforce engaged, but now the people they're engaging for, so that we all have a clear picture of what's going on and find our opportunities for improvement, do they sometimes not engage and give the feedback so that those folks are seen, right? We know you're using the system and we love this because we're looking at it. Does that kind of make sense? Kind of a janky question.
No, so you have like these 3 levels, so to say. Sometimes it's even more levels, but you have executive level, then you have let's say a head of maintenance level, and then you have then you have teams and so on. But let's just keep 3 levels to simplify it, and then you have the technician level. And so on the adoption side, I would say we have the easiest time on convincing the head of maintenance so far, because they are the problem aware, they're solution aware, then they are looking for solutions, and we also see a lot of inbound interest with us. So people are searching for something and then they come to us. And so the main point to answer the adoption thing on this level and the level below is not a salesperson who is showing a lot of nice slides. They need to see it, they need to feel it, they need to try it out. There has to be no barrier of adoption in regards to just, they are technicians in the end, they fix things, they want to try out things. You cannot, I don't know whether this language is allowed, but you cannot bullshit them, right? So this is not, doesn't work. So you when you go on the website on remberg.com, you can go immediately into the product and you can type your name with your URL. And then we're not putting AI anywhere, but AI is then researching your organization, what industry you are in, what is the type of equipment you will likely have, what is the structures you have. So you might be a brewery, and then the system is set up with an asset structure of a typical brewery for you already. So it feels like home when you enter first. And then you get maintenance plans in regards to a brewery asset and so on. It's like the whole system is already familiarized with your environment. So, and then they feel like, oh, wow, this was fast. It's already cut for me. And so I can try it out, and it's taking out the entry barrier. So that works really well with the head of maintenance. And there we don't see an adoption issue. It is really, really, I would say the most difficult user group is making technicians happy. It's super difficult because you can tell me whatever you want, but as a software company, to beat paper is really difficult. It always works. It has been working for thousands of years. It works offline. It works when it's dirty. It always works. And so it has a nice user experience. So you as a solution provider, you have to beat paper not only by 2x or 3x, you have to beat it by 10x. So it has to be dramatically better than just typing something somewhere, will not do it, right?
Well,
so
and
adoption on technician level is not easy.
It's not easy, and you're so right. You can't bullshit maintenance people because they're real, and they in a lot of ways know what they're doing. I'm not saying that that's actually correct, but they're doers. They get things done. And if you're going to do something that disrupts them, everybody asks, well, why do so many technicians put a work order closeout that says done, everything's fine, which is useless, really, in the long run. Now, I would say to them, so you're saying that they went in and they closed it out and they put a little teeny note that kept them moving and going fast, right? They'll say, well, yeah. And I'd say, so they're engaging. They received a work order. They maybe looked up on their mobile device through a mobile app, whatever it might be, and they went and did the work. So the place you need to improve, that's some adoption. Now, how do we improve that? Well, let's get some closeout codes. Let's get some things that make that a little bit easier for them. And we have to always show them by involving them before we drop this software on them and say, hey, guess what? Today you're going to start doing everything different. Involve them in the process, and they will start to understand. And when you start to get some of those data points into the system where you can retrospectively look back at improvements, which is a reflection of what the future can be, you can say, look, everybody, hey, guys and gals, I want to show you what you guys just did in the last 2 months. You created this visibility to these kind of issues. You created that visibility to those kind of issues. And we're now at a point where we can it might not happen that fast. I'm just kind of spitballing, but we're now at a point where we can evaluate our PMs and start to optimize them. And this is the value to us as an organization. And we'd like some feedback as to whether this is making your life any easier. So that's the thing, is getting their input and their buy-in, and it doesn't have to be a forceful thing. It has to have value. This is all about, in my view, adding value, right? Yeah, I need some software to organize my work orders and see where my facilities are. Fine, good. That's a step in the right direction. But without frontline, you're pretty much cooked. And we will all say that. And I think it's the sweet spot to what makes this work. You're right about the mid-level maintenance manager, some of the supervisors, and even at the next level up. And I do think, in fairness to leadership, maybe not the boardroom, but the C-suite, which you're on the board, level, right? Yeah. They have a job to do when it comes to running the business. And I think sometimes we are we're pretty harsh about that. They don't see maintenance. They don't see it. They see it as a cost center and not a revenue enabler or contributor. Yeah. And that's where that invisible balance sheet can come into play. But they got a lot of stuff to deal with. They don't have time for that. That's why they hire great maintenance people. But little by little, the message is getting out there. And the great ones that really do this well, like a company like BMW does this kind of stuff well. There's companies all over the world here and there that really set a great example, but they did some things in the beginning without technology that made that possible. I know some huge companies that don't have CMMS systems. They still use paper. And they are, I can't share who it is, but it is unbelievable. Now, they might have SAP as an ERP. I mean, that's probably the top dog globally. I just had them on not too long ago. I had Ryan Jones on. It's good stuff. So there's one thing I got to have you go through on CMMSradio, because it's your first visit. But before we get into the fun question segment, I want to ask about, one, your presence, Remberg, in North America, because I do have a lot of people that engage in North America. And then two, a little bit about what's on deck as it relates to near term and maybe long term for Remberg. What are you bringing to the industry that actually matters?
Yeah. So great questions. I just took a couple of notes. I wanted to add one thing on the, if I may, we have
absolutely
like 3 more minutes on this leadership and technician level. I mean, you go to fairs quite often also, right? So I give you an example. When we will go to Maintec now in Birmingham in a couple of weeks, because, and that also covers the question of where today we started out of Germany, Munich, have a couple of world leading companies as clients, most of them in manufacturing, 80+%. But as I said, there's also facility coming in, and like German football clubs that are using the same technology for the stadium and so on. But in the end, it's like focus has been on manufacturing, and now we're going beyond Germany. So we have initial clients from multiple other countries, also North America, but we are still early in that. So that also answers that question already. However, we are hungry and we are building great solutions. So if people want to try it out, it's for free. So you can just go online, try it out and decide for yourself whether it makes sense. But what I wanted to share as an example is when you go to a fair, you're at the booth and then you talk to a maintenance person on the other side. You're basically stuck in the knowledge of that specific conversation. Then the next one is coming and you should have taken some notes and you don't, and then it's lost, and then you're like somewhat the next thing comes. And it is a little bit like the situation with a work order and you're on the shop floor and you fix something. The next thing comes, and it's not because you didn't want to write it out, but it's just the next thing is coming. And the thing is, when we changed the fair set up that people can talk immediately after a conversation into their phone unstructured, and then that gets structured and gets placed into the right part of the system, the qualification of information gets so much better. And that's what we learned from the fair. We brought to the work order level and brought it into our solution where people can literally unstructuredly speak into their phone, and then the information on the work order gets extracted and put into the right place in the work order. So you can just talk. And then it asks you back, what did you use as a spare part and so on. And so all of a sudden, the knowledge gets better. Even when people leaving into retirement, at some point you have better knowledge, then you have better data, then you have closed work orders at the right time, so you have better KPIs. And based on all of that, you obviously can take better decisions, total cost of ownership, and so on. So it goes from bottom up to the top. And what you it's the same thing. As I said before, driving adoption and getting leadership to engage in this is show them, make them feel. So what we do is we in the sales process, we just ask people to give us a little bit of asset data, a little bit of here, and a little bit of that. We set it up for them for free, and then they just go and try it out, and then they show it to the leadership. And that's also something where people get a better feeling and can basically put their leadership on fire with something that they have set up. And look what I already did. I'm ready to go. So this is something where we drive bottom up, because top down, I think it's the same struggle as everywhere. I would say in many organizations, it still doesn't have the visibility that it should have. So that's that part.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that, and I've always wrestled with the top down versus bottom up, and I even think there's a case for building from the middle, and a lot of people don't necessarily like that concept, but we're really trying to bring the people and the processes together, or establish or improve some of those processes, right? Kind of like what you had mentioned earlier on in the episode. And I think they can all work. However, it's less common to go bottom up. It's far more common that we see top down, and the top down it's much more likely to succeed when they're going top down while they're also lifting bottom up and saying, hey, we're doing this, but we're going to help you understand why and really, make a difference. So this is why these conversations I think are important, because we get a snapshot into kind of what you're doing, what the future looks like, where you've been, what you've done. You've shared a little bit about who uses the platform. You've shared that people can actually try it and they don't have to be obligated, but they can really get in there. For that, just real quick, before I roll into the fun questions, if someone tries out the system and they go to Remberg.com, that's REMBERG.com, when they get a trial and they want to test drive this thing, right? How long is that period of time for them?
At the moment, in this specific month, it's still, I think, 14 days.
Okay.
And then we are launching end of month, or at least bit of June or so, we launch a free version, so you can just keep going with a little bit less feature set, etc. Because we really want to have people start and engage in this. So that's that. I can speak a little bit about the other stuff that you said. So North America, I would say, yes, still very Europe focused. And then we covered that. I mean, it's going to change over time, but I'm happy to get early people try it out, give us feedback. What do you see as a difference? So we love to learn. So that's still early. And then you want to speak a little bit about near-term, long-term, what we bring to the industry, and then we go to the fun part. So, we know that in the US there have been quite a number of players already in this modern maintenance play, and you've had them on the show, so Maintec, Limble, etc. We don't have that in Europe yet, and they are not so present here. Maybe more in the UK, but in Central Europe, we don't see them as much yet. So we believe it's not so much what we bring to the industry, even if we did just the same path at that. We just need more people helping people maintenance. So it's a great mission too, and it's a big market. So first of all, even if we just did the same, just from a geographical perspective, I think they are on a great mission. We are on a great mission. Everyone needs help. So we don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. It's just about helping people keep the world running. However, what we don't look so much, to be honest. We just look at the value that we can provide, and we look how can we provide the value. And I like when we had our first conversation, you and me, I told you we're not writing AI everywhere. But we're putting it everywhere, and then we don't say it. We just let people feel, and if they have the value, then they don't care whether it was AI what provided the value. It doesn't matter. It's just the value. So already in the near term, we'll see a couple of things that have never been possible in the history of humankind. You also already see this, and you can feel it. That is going to be launched soon from our end. That you have for first agentic flows in a maintenance solution that is so cryptic and no one really knows what it actually is. But I have seen myself, we tried out on first customer data where a complete preventive maintenance schedule and like planning was completely pre-done by an agentic flow based on the skills, based on the resources, based on the production plan, based on this like phenomenal results that you can bring to the table in like a full schedule being prepared for you, and you just take a look at it, whether it's good or not, and you do it one more time and you iterate. It's crazy what's possible these days. So we are looking more into that. Then what I shared on the, in the end, it's two things that technicians that we know don't like. It's searching for things and it's documenting things. So because that's the two things where we can use technology and bring a lot of value to the table. And I think we don't necessarily are going to follow the path of we have the nicest features, we have the most features. In the end, I'm very proud if we can say we have the solution that simplifies maintenance the most. And that I can bring as a value to the table. And it's a little bit difficult, I think, as a solution provider to say we are intuitive, we are whatever. The user decides whether you are intuitive or not. So I would say try it out and get your own feeling, and then we talk.
Well, and you're also, I think, trying to be intentional about understanding the businesses that you serve rather than saying, hey, you can use this. This is what it is. Yeah, you're going to have to change a few things about how you operate. So when you do it this other way, where you say, look, yeah, there's a lot of competition out here, but we want to focus on the problems that we solve really, really well. And we want to understand how we can do that better for you, our client. And the rest kind of works itself out. I know there's a bit of oh yeah, we're competitors, but a lot of these companies you've referenced, some of them I have these kinds of discussions that aren't recorded where they're like, yeah, this industry has a long way to go. So this is why we need a lot of players at different levels. Some organizations need smaller, super affordable, less complicated systems that aren't going to go enterprise. And there's a lot happening at the SMB level. And still to this day, 2026, even businesses that have been around for a long, long time, they're not fully digitized, and sometimes they're doing great and they don't necessarily have to, but a lot of them are struggling. So everybody works differently. That's why there's room in this whole big world of maintenance technology for Remberg and some of the others that you referenced. And it's really interesting. Then there'll be consolidations and new ones will come in because, well, that's all good stuff, but we do this and this and nobody does that. We're going to build our own. And then it becomes a system out on the market. That's all fine and good. It's all about the customer and what they do and how you can empower them and enable them. So, are you ready for the fun question segment?
Yes.
All right. There are 3 questions. No wrong answers. A lot of fun. So, first question, what is your favorite music?
It's funny. When I do workout, I'm listening to a melodic hardcore, which is like really hard stuff. And my wife, if it accidentally is on loud, she freaks out. She gets scared because it's such a loud noise. But when I'm going out, it's more, it's other stuff. But I would put that in.
All right, good stuff, man. The next fun question is, what is your favorite sport or hobby? And on sport, it doesn't have to be one that you play. It can be one that you just like to watch, follow, and root for. I have my suspicions what it might be, but fire away.
My personal favorite sport is a really, really hard, high intensity workout and a sauna afterwards. So that is like my favorite thing, and I would trade it for a lot of things.
All right, good. Here's the big one. No wrong answers. What is your philosophy, perspective? Is it even a thing when it comes to this concept of work-life balance?
I told you it's a Father's Day today, national holiday in Germany. So I spent a day with my 2 young boys. And in the evening, 9 p.m., I'm having a podcast call for CMMSradio from home. So I would say when you have like, especially as an entrepreneur, you cannot completely shut that off. You're thinking about the business sometimes when you shouldn't, but then you're thinking about the family sometimes in the business when you probably shouldn't either. So it's mixed a lot. And I believe in the concept. Some people say work-life balance, the term is something that shouldn't be used at all. I have a balanced work-life setup, although the lines are blurry, and it always goes in. And that also means in the setup that I have flexibility, that when during the day my wife comes by with the 2 boys, then I'm just taking a break and focus on that. So I would say balanced, but there's no clear borders between the two.
And now you see, or maybe when you watch this back, once I put it out and edit it, that's why I ask that question, because I want those kind of nuanced perspectives as to how you're doing it. Look, you're the CEO of a company that has a critical place in the world as it relates to the things that we have, whether it's manufacturing, facilities being occupied, and maybe they are integrated. No wrong answers, right? Dave, I appreciate you being here. Everybody, this is Dave Hahn. You can find him on LinkedIn, and it's Remberg, Remberg. Go to remberg.com if you want to check him out and read about it. And I'd really love feedback from anybody that engages with them, does a trial, and even does some business with them, just because I love to hear journey stories. I love hearing from clients because it helps somebody out there, and it's also a lot of fun for me. So I hope you can help a bunch of people on their CMMS journey, Dave, and thank you for being on CMMS Radio.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.